Can you relate? Do you spend hours creating pins in one app, downloading them to your computer, and then uploading them into your scheduler to schedule out to your Pinterest boards? Yeah, me too. But not anymore. Tailwind has created something that brings all of that onto their platform, and it's called Tailwind Create. They're currently in a beta program, but I have a special code for you to jump the line and try it out for yourself. But before you do that, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel for more Pinterest and Tailwind tutorials. Let's jump in to Tailwind Create, and I'm gonna walk you through everything you can do, and you can see just how easy it is to create hundreds of pins in mere minutes, tweak and edit them, and then take them into Tailwind to schedule them to your boards. It is so easy. Let's check it out. The very first step is to set your brand preferences. This is what is going to pull through and create hundreds of unified brand cohesive pins later on in this process. So as you can see, you can enter your website name or your brand name in here. I like to use my web URL. This can be on the bottom of a pin or at the top of a pin. It's always good to have your branding somewhere on your pin if you're using Pinterest for your business. Next, you choose your brand fonts. There is a great selection of fonts in here. And with the paid version, if you were to upgrade, you can actually upload your own brand fonts. On this version here, you can go ahead and just select something that is close to your brand font, or just stick with something that is traditional or classic. So, Pinterest pins perform really well when the text is easy to read. So a nice, simple sans serif font always works well as a default on your pins. Another feature I really love here is the font pairing suggestions. If you're not a designer and you might not know what fonts go well together, this is a great little resource. So feel free to peek through there if you want to try out some different font combinations. Next, you'll see your brand color palette. You only are able to select 4 colors at this time. So stick to the colors that are most iconic for your brand. Your main colors and accent colors, I would leave off a black or a white. Just use your main identifying brand colors. They also have some suggested ones here if you want to try something different. And then lastly would be your brand logos. I recommend you uploading them as a transparent PNG file, and also upload a variety of color options. So a white and a dark, ideally. So a white and a black. If you have others, go ahead and add it in here. So, all right, now that we have our brand preferences set, let's go to the next step in creating our pins. All right, now you're at the Tailwind Create dashboard, and to start a new design, you click on this green button, Start Designing. So let's get started. Now you'll want your destination link. So this is the URL to your blog. I'm going to use this blog post of mine, 6 effective strategies for lead generation using Pinterest, and then add that here. Enter what you'd like your pin title to be. It'll autofill something or whatever you had as your, as your blog post title. Feel free to change it here if you'd like. You could change them manually on each of the pins, but this is what's going to autofill. Next, you want to add some photos. So you can, if you click on the URL tab, you can grab any of the photos that are already loaded into your blog post. You can then also use stock photos. So maybe I'll say, since we're talking about Pinterest, there are thousands and thousands of photos you can choose from, but you'll see some of them have the little star, and those are for the advanced plans, so some of the paid plans. So if you haven't paid for anything, just look for some free stock photos. I'm just going to grab a couple here. And you'll see they just pull them up into your photo collection. Now there's no limit to how many you can add here. The more photos you upload now, the more photo options you'll have to play with. But you can also add additional photos once you're in the editing. We'll add a couple here too. All right, once you have your photos ready to go, hit Create Images. And you'll see it use those photos, your color palette, brand, text, title, everything like that. and created some, actually hundreds of templates. Now, a lot of these will need to be tweaked slightly, shift over the photo, change some of the colors or some of the text, but this is a great jumping off point and this will save tons of time. So let's go ahead and edit a couple of them and I can show you how easy it is to create a bunch of pins. All right, so let's just start with this first one. So a couple things that you can do. If you really like the basic pin design, you can save it as one of your saved designs. And then a couple things you can do from this screen, you can try out different looks. So if you click this photo, it shuffles through all of your photos that you have selected. So as you can see, you can rotate through them all, find the one you like. If you like one, but you don't like the positioning of the photo, then you can click this edit, and I'll show you that in the next step here. But the other thing you can do is toggle through the colors, and these will change. Actually, it didn't show on this one, but a lot of times it'll change the font color. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, so this one's changing the text color, and that one sometimes it'll change like a block. That, but yeah, so let's keep, what I like to do is choose my photo from this step and then go in, just because a lot of times there's a few different layers in on the pin design. So if you choose your photo, it's a little bit easier on this step. So what you want to do is hit edit next if you want to make changes. If it's good to go and you don't want to make any changes, you can click select, and you'll see if I do that, it'll check, save it, and then it'll show up down here on the bottom. Once you select as many as you'd like, we'll do the go to schedule. But let's go back. I'm going to deselect it, and we're going to edit this a little bit more. Okay, so first of all, I don't like where the text is positioned, so I'm going to move this up, change that, space it out slightly. The other things you guys can change here would be you can add some additional text. We can add a subtitle, a call to action, and these are all just kind of different sizes, but they're all editable. You can change your fonts, font colors, transparency, size, add shadows. There's a lot of options here. This right here has a box overlay, so it just brings down that opacity a bit. Let's see if I want to brighten it or anything. One tip that I've noticed personally on my account and my clients' accounts is that pins that are darker overall, so like a pin with a dark overlay like this and light text, tend to stand out on the feed a little bit more from all the light and airy pins that people tend to do. So that's one little little tip when you're designing to mix it up, but definitely try some with the dark. There are some other little elements that you can play around with here. Arrows, if you have a call to action, maybe you would do get a little smaller. If you had made a button or something like that. So you can use, if you had just a plain photo and you wanted a text or an overlay on it, all you do is use this one and then change the transparency. So play around with it and have fun. Basically what you can do is download it here if you want it downloaded to your computer. Discard changes, obviously that just kind of goes back to the regular, and then save and go back. So we're just going to go ahead and save this and go back. And I'll show you a couple other things here. So up here, there's some really great filters that will filter through the different templates that they have. So this one's a blog post. You can see I'll change this here, and it'll kind of reorganize these. You still, as you can see over on the side here, you have thousands, well, maybe hundreds. I don't know how many. There's no quantity on here, but a ton to choose from. If you can find any that you can send right to the scheduler, that would save you the most amount of time. But what I do recommend is that choose a few with this title, and then you want to actually mix up the title. Think about your audience and what are the different solutions they might be looking for, and try and feature your product or your blog post in different lights. So, you might reach out to a different audience if you word it a little bit differently. So sometimes people like a how-to, or just, think about a different way you can reword your title or add some subtitles. Don't get too wordy on pins. It's hard to read really text-heavy pins on mobile, and about 80% of Pinterest traffic is on mobile. So something to think about there. But have fun with this, and I'm going to show you the next steps once I get a few selected and edited, and we'll go on to the schedule and I'll show you how easy it is from there. All right, so I have a few options down here. We're going to go ahead and click on the Go Schedule button, and that'll take all of these saved pin designs and bump them into our drafts folder over in Tailwind. So you could see they are still missing the description, but they do have the proper URL, and then they did autofill that title, but you can mix up the title if you want a little bit of variety in there as well. So what I do as a shortcut for creating pin descriptions is I keep a spreadsheet. Since I'm always creating multiple pins for past blog posts, I have a spreadsheet where I can list, right here I only have 2 options, but you can list out multiple different pin title options and then pin description options, and then you can make it an easy copy paste. So I'm just gonna kind of stagger them around here. All right, so now you've got all those in. We could change up the titles here a little bit. So 1 second, I'll do that. All right, so once you have your titles in place, descriptions in place, and you're ready to go ahead and choose your boards, this is where board lists will come in handy. I have quite a few different board lists, as you can see here, different themes and whatnot. So I'm gonna just go ahead and select a couple of these. So then once you have all of your boards listed in here, and these are relevant boards that this pin can go to, then I also will add a couple of them to my tribes. I'll pick some of my, my favorite ones, what I think would perform well, and then I'll go ahead and add those to tribes that they're relevant to. All right, and next we'll do interval scheduling. So this step is really important because this is what will prevent your pin scheduling to look spammy to Pinterest. So if I were to just hit schedule all right now, it would line them up back to back to back right inside my queue. So this one pin would go to these, 10 boards minutes after each other, which is not natural Pinterest user behavior. So what you want to do is space them out with interval scheduling. So what I'll do is I just start here at the top, and then I'll leave this first one at the auto time. You can change, how far you want them spaced apart, and then hit set interval, and you'll see that it set that interval right there. Now, because these are all the same topic, I want to space them out just a little bit. So this next one, instead of starting today, I'm going to click on the next day, and then we're going to hit set interval. Same with this one. I'm going to do the next day, but I'm going to just change the time a little bit. And then we'll continue through all of these. And the last one. Okay, so they're all still in drafts. So now I'm just going to hit schedule all drafts, and they will split them all up and fill them into my queue. So this is the publisher, and you can see all of them are in place here. And if I scroll down through my schedule, you'll see they're spread out, and I have pins scheduled all the way out into October, end of October, gosh, all the way into November. So I am set up. And as I continue to add, this will fill in some of my other slots as well. So there you have it. That is using Tailwind Create to streamline your Pinterest pin creation, scheduling, and posting right inside Tailwind.